Aribulele, Amaruri, Aribule, Amaruri, Aribulele, Amaruri.
Dumelang, Dumilani. Hello, and a warm welcome to our guest. I am your host, Sharon Mokokwane. This is the Amaruri TV show, where we talk about hard issues and seek the truth concerning them. Today on the Amaruri TV show, we will be talking about step-parent abuse. It is commonly known that there is a high incidence of different forms of child abuse and mistreatment by step-parents than by biological parents. Studies show that humans are likely to preserve their own, but may harm children who are not theirs. Individuals are predisposed to take measures to guarantee their family lineage. Based on this, stepchildren are more likely to be abused by parents instead of biological children. On the show today, we want to discuss the sad reality, and we hope to encourage viewers to see the importance of protecting children and providing good guardianship. Here in studio with me today, I have two ladies who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves.
Hello viewers at home, my name is Tamushi Busolo. I'm a widow and I have 2 children.
Thank you, Tamushi.
Hello viewers at home, my name is Lamkhan Shisiana. I am single. I come from Roka village from a family of 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lemkhang and Tamushi, for coming to the show and sharing your lives with us. We also have our resident pastor and counselor. You are welcome, Pastor Muluki.
Thank you.
Tamushi, may you please describe your childhood to us?
Growing up, I never knew that my mother had passed away. I grew up with my grandmother. So the way I grew up was like, it wasn't that pleasant. I suffered a lot at the hands of my stepmother. For example, when I go to school, she would hide the lotion and I would go to school just like that. Sometimes I come back from school, I'll find she'd poured like rubbish from the bin on top of the bed. She will cover it nicely so that when I want to sleep, I'll find rubbish there. Now, sometimes again in June, when it's cold, she would pour water on my bed. And that was just too bad. It was too much for me.
Lemu, can you tell us a bit about your childhood?
Thank you. I had a beautiful childhood. I was raised for the most part of my life by a single parent. My mother is such a loving person, but everything changed when my stepfather came into my life. That is when I was 12 years old. I was doing that 6. And then that's when I started to feel uncomfortable at home and rather be elsewhere than go home.
Okay. Muruti, just hearing about their childhood and the family setup, how did that prepare them for life?
Yeah, for example, with Tamu, it's very unthinkable that any parent or any human being, for that matter,
Could do that.
could do such a thing. I mean, imagine putting rubbish on a child's bed and then covering it nicely, or pouring water on the bed during winter. It's just unthinkable. Did you say that was your grandmother?
My stepmother.
Your stepmother. Oh yes, your stepmother. That is just it's horrible, and it just, you see, children need security. They need a sense of identity. They need
Belonging.
a sense of belonging. And so when a child at home is treated like that, all of those things, they go away, and it's going to be a very difficult thing, very, very difficult thing for them to recover from that. So I can't wait to hear what else happened after that. With Lemu, good mother, so she was safe until a stepfather came in, and you can hear already that there are some problems there.
Yes. Lemu, can you tell us about maybe your painful experiences when your stepfather came into your life?
The first thing he did, he was very traditional and rigid. So he didn't allow us to wear certain kinds of clothes. My mother would normally buy me very short dresses, and then my stepfather would either cut them into half and extend the skirt. Such things would happen, and each time I would be very hurt. But the one thing that stood out of all of them was when he asked me to go wash the car outside in one cold morning of June 1998. I remember it very well, like it was yesterday. It was freezing cold, and then he woke me up, I think around 4 a.m. I don't know what time exactly it was, and then he locked me outside and gave me the bucket and the mutton cloth and the sunlight liquid to wash his car. So I was stuck outside alone, not to mention that it was dark. I was afraid, and the water was so cold, and I couldn't even wash the car. So I sat by the septic tank until around 6 a.m. when my mother came to look for me, to bath me, to get ready to go to school.
So you did wash the car?
I couldn't, because when I tried to open the tap, the water was frozen, so I couldn't even wash the car.
Did your mom ask you what you're doing outside at that time of the day?
She was shocked because when she went to my bedroom to wake me up, I wasn't in the bedroom. And then she panicked. She looked for me all around the house, and then I was nowhere to be found. Now, my stepfather knew very well where I was, but he didn't say anything. And then she went outside out of panic. And then she saw me seated outside, and then she asked me, what are you doing here? What happened? And then I tried to explain, but she didn't comment much. She just took me, and then she bathed me in hot water, and then she wrapped me in warm clothes.
Okay. Tamushi, can you elaborate more on other experiences that you had with your stepmom?
The other experience was when she chased me away from home around 1.
How old were you?
I was doing Form 4.
Okay.
Yes. She just came in, she woke me up, she told me to pack all my things and leave. So I had to pick up all my things, and I decided I was going to go to Lusaka. That's where my grandmother was staying.
Where were you staying by then with your mom and your stepmom and your dad?
We were staying in Extension 12.
Or in Gaborone? Okay.
So as I left, I walked from Extension 12 towards the Grand Palm Hotel, not knowing where I was going, but I just told myself I was going to walk to Lusaka. Before I reached Grand Palm, there's a man, I think he was coming from Grand Palm, from the night shift. He stopped his combi, he asked me where I was going. So I had to explain everything to him. So he picked me up, he told me he was going to he took me to his house. So when we reached his house, I was shocked because the man was my friend's father. We were in the same class in Form 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I spent a night there. The following morning, he decided to take me to Childline. So Childline, they called my father. My father came and he picked me up. Then he took me back home. And when I reached home, it was fire because she didn't like what I did. Yeah. After that, it's like, well, the children had to come home with the police, and she didn't open the doors. She didn't open the gate for them.
We're going to continue talking about step-parent abuse after the break. Welcome back to the show. Before the break, my guests were talking about their childhood, and they explained to us how they started to experience step-parent abuse. What did your biological parents do when they realized that their partner was abusive towards you? Did you ever see them defending you or trying to protect you in any way?
My mother was very protective of me. I remember that when that incident happened, that evening when I came back from school, it's not that she was talking to me per se. I think I was just eavesdropping on that conversation with my stepfather. I remember her telling him that I told you that I have children If you don't want my children, it's best you go, because I'm never going to be forced to choose between you and my kids. Yes.
Okay, so you felt your mom did defend you.
I felt that she did defend me, but of course, I don't know what else I would have wanted her to do, but that for me was satisfactory because she was addressing the main source of my frustration in the home.
Yes. And you, Tamushi, what did your father do when you told him about your stepmom?
My father couldn't believe. He used to think that I'm the one who didn't love my stepmother. The neighbors also knew what was going on, but they used to think that maybe he was given something to make him not see what my stepmother used to do to me.
Oh, so they thought it was a Korobela kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes. Because if I reported to him, he would do nothing completely. Though he loved me, but he would do nothing about it.
Did you try to tell other relatives?
The only relatives that I had was my grandmother before she died and my uncle. And they were so far away.
Yeah.
There was nothing they could do about it.
Yes. So you were like on your own.
I was on my own.
Sure. Muruti, how does a biological parent leave their partner to abuse their own child?
Many times people are very desperate for love, to be loved, to belong. And so you find that most of the time, your partner may do certain things that you do not like maybe abusing your child, or any other thing that even abusing you. But because you are afraid of being alone, you have been maybe rejected, you sacrifice so much to keep the relationship going, because obviously when somebody has a relationship, there is something that they are benefiting out of it. And so in a situation, Lemo's situation, it seems the mother was very clear. She had made it very clear to the stepfather that she has children, and if he loves her, he will have to accommodate the children. Somebody would think, but what he did was very cruel. Why didn't she just get rid of him straight away? It's more complicated than that. A sense of belonging is, I didn't hear clearly where her biological father was. So there may be something there that says, you know what, I don't want to raise children alone. I need somebody, a man, to be able to help me. And so sometimes people weigh it out and they see what they can sacrifice. In her case, for the father not to see is a little bit suspicious. Like the neighbors were thinking that, but sometimes love just makes us blind. You love this person so much that you fail to see actually what they are doing. As a counselor, I meet a lot of cases where the step-parent is abusing the child. And in many of the cases, the child feels like their biological parent did not do anything. And most of the time, the child's view is a little bit distorted because they don't know what goes behind, the scenes when they are not there, concerning them. Most responsible parents will not want to show that they are fighting for them in front of their partner, for their children in front of their partners. So there are many issues that are behind there, but mostly it's the fear of losing your partner.
And in our country, in our culture, children must hold their elders in honorary, reverence. Yes. Did you find that easy? Were you able to respect this person?
It was very difficult for me because there were times when I'd greet him and he would not respond. Like would just be walking around the house without talking to each other. It became worse to an extent that I had to avoid him by all means possible. Whenever I would hear the gate opening, I'll just go to my bedroom right away and stay there until I know for sure that he's asleep. Otherwise, I'll not get up. If anything, I would pretend to be fast asleep.
And you, Damushi, were you expected to show her a lot of respect, and were you able to do that?
Yeah, I did respect her. I did whatever she wanted me to do. But then I used to wonder, I'll cook for her, I'll wash her clothes, I'll iron. But why was she hating me so much?
Yes. Muruti, how does this place our children at risk, this cultural thing of, extreme honor and respect to elders?
The Bible says children must honor their parents. So it's the right thing to do. But also parents should not the word is the word exacerbate or exasperate a child, or anger the children.
Yes, or
do not
provoke
provoke
them.
the children. Yes. So there's a responsibility both ways. And unfortunately, when the family unit fails, when when the parents fail to protect the child, it becomes very difficult to want to apply certain rules to the children and not apply it to the parents. So nowadays we have Childline, where, I mean, in her case, she says she was taken there by another parent, where children can be heard. In our schools, they are taught about Childline. But still, even with that knowledge, usually abusive parents instill a lot of fear on the child. And so they are even afraid. They really feel like prisoners in their homes. So the reverence, the respect is good. The reverence and the fear is the bad part, and that can really work against our children.
Yes. Lemu, when were you at liberty to tell a relative or anyone close to you about what was happening?
In fact, I never told anyone. When my stepfather came around that time, my sister was no longer staying at home, my elder sister. She was studying at the University of Botswana, so she came home for a vacation, and then she picked some things which were rather abnormal, according to her assessment. And then at one point she retaliated. I don't remember what had happened, but then I remember her screaming and telling my stepfather that, I hate you, I want you to leave, I hate you. But I remember very well that he had done something that hurt me. So, and then after that, that's when my sister asked me, and then I told her some of the things that were happening in her absence. But I had never discussed them with my mother or with any other relative.
Yes. Okay, we are going to pause right there. And after the break, we are going to talk about how they sought help and how did they heal from the situation.
Hi, I'm Tizzle, and I'll be your chef for this show, Let's Cook. Join me as I take you on a culinary journey as you learn new techniques, new methods, and new ways to cook all your favorite foods. You're gonna have a blast with this one. So please, join us on channel 291 Maru TV.
Welcome back to the Amaruri TV show. We are talking about step-parent abuse. Damushi, in this situation that you were in, the abuse, the horrible stepmom, when did it seem like you'd find a break in life?
I had a break in life when my father passed away. In fact, I knew about his passing after a week. I had no idea he had died. Because we just fetched from Gaborone to Malawi. When we reached there, that's why I just heard people crying, and I didn't know what was going on. So when I entered the house, that's when they told me that your father passed away.
Did he pass away in Botswana or?
No, in Malawi. Okay. Yes. So when we were there, after the funeral, we were supposed to decide where we wanted to stay. So I told them I wanted to go back to Lusaka to my grandmother. So when she heard about that, she decided to take my passport, my clothes, my permits, so that I won't go anywhere. She told me to go and stay with her mother, her biological mother.
In Malawi?
No, in Zambia.
Okay.
At her home village. And I was expected to look for a job. And by then, I didn't have any clothes. She just left me with a night dress and shoes. That's all. So the following morning, I decided to go and look for a job. When I entered the office, the lady looked at me and she was so shocked. She was asking me, "You're looking for a job and you're wearing like that?" And I said, "Yes." Then she told me to explain what happened. So I told her everything that happened. And then she asked me if I wanted to come back here. I told her I wanted to come back, but I didn't have money, I didn't have clothes, I didn't have a passport. So she said I shouldn't worry. She told me that I should come and see her the following morning, the way I was. So she paid for a bus from the village where we were to Chipata. Chipata is just like Francistown. When we were there, she paid for for the guest house where I slept. The following morning, she paid for, I was with her when I was in Chipata. She paid for a bus for me to Lusaka, like Gaborone, no, Francistown, Gaborone. When I reached Lusaka, she remained in Chipata, in fact. I was in Lusaka. She gave me the money to travel from Chipata to Lusaka. Then she told her friend to help me look for my grandmother, because I had left my grandmother 13 years back. I didn't see her for 13 years. Yeah, so we started searching for the house. Fortunately, we found it. Well, I found my uncle there, but my grandmother wasn't there. She had moved to the village. So when they called her to come and see me, she came and she wanted me to stay there, but I said I couldn't. I didn't want to be a burden. So what happened is I didn't stay in Lusaka. The same lady in Chipata, she had given me the Zim dollars for me to travel from Lusaka to Zimbabwe. Then she gave me pullers again to travel from Zimbabwe to Gaborone. And all those traveling that I was doing, I didn't have a passport. I didn't have permits. So when I reached at the Botswana's border, and those guys are very tough, I don't know why they allowed me in without a passport, without a permit. But what they told me is make sure when you reach Gaborone, you apply for a passport, you apply for a permit. That's how I ended up here in Gaborone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Lemu, and for you, how did your healing process start?
My healing process started when I had to go through counseling.
How did you decide to go to counseling?
Okay. At one point, Mruti was preaching at church. He was talking about purpose and how people are afraid of getting close to God because they're afraid of what God might ask them to do. So I went and had a meeting with him after that service because those words were overwhelming for me. And then it turned out that he even said to me, "Where's your father?" Because clearly from what you are saying, I realized that there are father issues here. And then I told him that I had never met him at that time. And then that's when I started counseling. Then I had to deal with issues affecting my father's absence. And I also had to deal with the abuse that I went through with my stepfather. And the one thing that stood out for me was that I had to forgive him. It was difficult to forgive him, but I had to say it with my mouth that I forgive you for doing 1, 2, 3 to me. And I cried. There was a box of tissue there. I cried and he played music. But by the time the session was over, when I went home for the first time, I just slept like a baby. I felt like the weight had been lifted off my shoulders. It's amazing that right now I have a relationship with my stepfather. He can actually call me daughter. I can actually send him a message to say hello, fathers. But in the time past, I would never refer to anyone as a father because that image for me had been distorted. Yeah.
And for you, Tamushi, how did your healing process start?
My healing process started when I met Muruti. He taught me about forgiveness. I don't know if he still remembers, but I still remember. He told me to get rid of bitterness because it causes the knots in the soul. It was hard for me to forgive my stepmother and the children, but I ended up forgiving them. And it's so amazing. After that forgiveness, all of a sudden, they just called me. I don't know where they got my number from, Malawi. They called me and they told me, you know that you are our sister. It was a shock to me.
So these are your half siblings?
Brothers and sisters, yeah.
Oh, okay. And how long did the process take you?
It didn't take long because I just thank God for the LTS lessons. I used to attend the LTS. Yeah, so that helped me too much. Yes.
And for you, Lemu, how long was your healing process?
I did 4 sessions and I was fine.
Okay. All right. Muruti, is this healing, is it possible for everyone?
It is possible for everyone if they are willing to let go, to forgive. You see, when you have unforgiveness in your heart, you are a prisoner. You are a prisoner to the one that you have unforgiveness towards. They control your life. They are the ones who, let's say, for example, somebody hurt you 10 years ago. You had a friend who you shared everything with, and you had a boyfriend. and you used to tell them what was happening in the relationship, and then you realize that that friend of yours has stolen your boyfriend, and they go. You will be hurt a lot, and then maybe you may move on. After 2 years, you find another one. 10 years later, when you are having coffee with your husband now, there is your friend. Those two guys, they are together. What happens to you? It's like a poison is released inside of you. And suddenly, the feelings that you had then come back, and you change your mood, and you tell your family, let's go home. They're wondering what is going on. It's because the person that you have unforgiveness towards still controls your life one way or the other. You are a prisoner. Somebody said unforgiveness is like drinking poison
Expecting
and
someone
then
else to
expecting
die.
your enemy to die. And that is how it is. So that's why it's very, very important for each and every one of us who have issues. We live in a broken world to really forgive.
Don't go away. We are going to be right back, where we hear from our viewers about how they can encourage other people and how, freed they were when they decided to forgive. We'll be back right after the break.
sa re kgarintsweng bopela ba tla ba siane pitso e ka kwano pitso e mo kgwana tsa setso a mo rutetsi wa tsa ngwao mosireletsi wa tsa ngwao ngwao jalo ya setso bona tle dijo tse ke di lebileng tsa setso bona tle poko e ntle bona tle mmino bona tle kapari thulaganyo yone ke yone leng gore jalo e go ritibollela tsotlhe a ona le lenyora la kitso ya tsone tsa Setswana a ona le sepehela se leng gore re ka se batela mo go tsa Setswana le selo le la setso ra le loga o le loga jalo le nna moshimane o mokokoto motona o ra tshenyego khotso jalo moshimane o tswang go ntse lo sekolo dithonamo ye ke go rang ke re lebella thulaganyo ye ka thamalalo mo Maru TV tshipile tshipi gone ya
We are glad you are able to join us again after the break on the Amaruri TV show, where we are talking about step-parent abuse. Our guests were telling us about their healing process and what took place as they went through the process of healing. Lemu, can you maybe tell us about, the relationship between you and your father? Because you spoke a lot about your biological father not being there. What did you learn through this process of healing?
My biological father was never a part of my life. He was married to someone else, but apparently it's because my grandfather would not allow him to marry my mother because they believed so much in arranged marriages at the time. But that did not save me from the frustration that comes with not having your other parent. I still felt that he should have done something about our relationship because my grandfather died in 1995, but I met my biological father 2 weeks before I turned 30. And I must tell you the truth, I was indifferent when I met him. I was cold and I didn't even know how to react to him calling me. He called to say, you are my daughter. And then I asked him if he knows the meaning of the word daughter, because I had never had that kind of relationship with an elderly man. And the whole thing really affected my relationships, even with other older men. Of course, there are men who would just love you because of what they can get from you. But then I've also come to appreciate that in the church, there are men who can love you genuinely with no strings attached. I remember when I came to do my first year, my pastor from the assembly I was fellowshipping at assigned some older men to take care of me in Gaborone. But I honestly believe that I shut him out because I had issues of trust with men. I didn't want to get anywhere close to him. Every effort he made to make me comfortable at the university, I just pushed him away. Yeah.
Anita Mushi, you mentioned your half-siblings getting in touch with you as you were going through the healing process. How did that happen?
I don't really know how they managed to get my number. I'm sure they contacted someone here they knew to ask for my number. I just saw a message coming through from Malawi and I was so shocked or where did they get my number and why have they been looking for me?
And this happened as you were going through the healing process.
Yes.
But before that, they had been quiet.
No, it was
Or no?
quiet. At the time I decided to forgive them, that's when all that started to happen.
Muruti, how does one explain that?
Yeah. You see, sometimes we fail to understand that human beings are more than just the physical aspect of us. There's a real spiritual world out there that affects us one way or the other. When you have unforgiveness and you have shut people out, it's almost like the channel between you and them is totally cut off. It's like when you have not paid the full bouquet, there are some channels that you
Can't get.
Yeah. So when you start forgiving, when you go through that process of forgiveness, those channels that have been closed up suddenly opens up. I have heard similar stories, many actually similar stories of people who, as they began to forgive those who have hurt them, suddenly the line of communication came, not from those who were forgiving, but from the others who were not even there. So there's a spiritual aspect to us that when we do things right, according to God's way, it opens up. One of the most interesting cases that I've dealt with was a lady who was abused, almost killed by a boyfriend. And years later, as I took her through counseling, I remember she cried so much as she was forgiving that guy. Actually, that guy took her to the bush to kill her. And then I think God just protected her because he started crying and was remorseful. But this lady had gone with this pain for the longest time. She was a Christian, she was trying to live for God, but the pain of the abuse was just too much. And on the day that she chose to forgive her, and she cried and cried, as we finished our session, it was in the afternoon, and she went into her car. As she was driving up the road, that guy from Norway, more than 5 years, called her at that particular moment. And she also didn't know where he got her phone number from, and just said, you know what, this is me. And he started apologizing. He said, I don't know, you're a very good lady. I don't know what got into me. I don't know why I did what I did. So there is a spiritual side to all of the things. The decisions that we make on earth affect certain things in the spirit, and things can suddenly open up.
Yes. For you, Lemo, you said that you have a relationship now with your stepfather. How did you get in contact after you left for university?
In fact, after I left for university a few years later, he and my mom went separate ways. So he moved back to Zimbabwe, and then he sent me a friend request on Facebook. I ignored it for the longest time. And after I confirmed the friendship, a few months later, when I decided to forgive him, then he sent me a message to say, hello, daughter, how are you? And then I wasn't angry, I just responded well. So right now we do have a good relationship. I actually pray for him. I pray for his salvation. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay. And you, Tamushi, how do you feel? Have you ever spoken to your stepmom?
I haven't, but I'm always communicating with the children. It's like she's shy. She's feeling shy. I don't know what she's thinking of.
Yes.
But no matter we communicate, they call, I call them also.
Okay. You've just never gotten a chance to actually communicate with her.
No.
Have any of you received an apology from your step-parents?
No, not for me. He hasn't said anything.
Do you think he's aware, that he was hurting you when you were a child?
Why would he not be aware? I don't know. Maybe it's because he was very traditional. I could
So
give
you
him
may be
that.
too
but
proud to apologize to your child?
Most probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you think if she would get the chance, she would offer you an apology?
I don't think so. Well, she's proud because what I'm hearing from what people are saying is like she wants to come here, but she doesn't know how to start. Yeah.
Okay. So, Muruti, when people forgive other people, does that mean there must be reconciliation?
Not necessarily. Reconciliation is good, it's encouraged. Actually, the Bible says, as far as it's possible with you, live at peace with all men. So God encourages reconciliation, good relations. But something that is very clear is that God demands that we forgive everyone. And forgiveness doesn't need that other person to have apologized. Actually, true forgiveness is accepting an apology that was never made. It's a decision that you make in your heart. I choose to forgive my stepfather for abusing me this way. You speak it with your mouth, and with God, that is fine. You see, because God respects our free will, when we speak forgiveness, He releases His angels to come and heal our hearts from the pains that were caused. Once you are healed, maybe you can make an attempt to go to the person that wronged you and you say, you know what, when you did 1, 2, 3, 4, you really hurt me, but I want you to know that I have forgiven you. And now how they respond will determine whether the reconciliation can work or not. So it's very important that you understand that reconciliation and forgiveness are two separate things, and people sometimes mix them and they fail to forgive. When you forgive in your heart, then you get healed, and then reconciliation becomes a possibility.
Yes. Wow, we are learning a lot about forgiveness, and I'm sure our viewers at home as well are learning a lot about the process of forgiveness and separating it with reconciliation. We will be back right after the break. Welcome back to the Amaruri TV show. We are talking about step-parent abuse. We spoke so much before the break about the process of healing and how you've had to forgive and how it just opened so many doors and even spiritual channels where people were calling you, people that you hadn't talked to for a long time. Where are you now in life after you've gone through that process and have made peace with the people that once hurt you?
I would actually say that I'm at the most exciting phase of my life because I don't have any grudges. I don't have any anger towards any person. I have a good relationship with both my biological father and my stepfather. I've actually managed to link up with my other siblings from my biological father. We can actually chat. They've put me in the family WhatsApp group, which is something that is actually exciting. I'm very content. I'm healed. I have healthier relationships now. I trust people easily, but of course I'm not naive, and I'm excited about the future.
Okay. And you, Tamushi, where are you now in life?
I managed to apply for a passport and the permits. And in fact, I had applied also for citizenship, which was granted to me.
Oh.
Yes. I got married afterwards. I had 2 children, the twins. Unfortunately, my husband passed away when they were 6 months. But then still God was so good to us. He provided clothes for the children. People would just come along, bring clothes for the kids, or bring food. I found a job where my husband used to work. They decided to employ me. That's where I am today.
Okay. All right. Muruti, the process of forgiveness, how can it, make a person's life better?
I would say forgiveness is that bridge to the other side. It's a bridge to the promised land. Yeah. It's a tricky bridge. It's almost like a wobbly bridge that you have to go through scared. What am I doing? But when you get to the other side, you really find out that, wow, this risk that I took was really worth it. Because you see, when you forgive somebody, it's almost like somebody who owes you millions of dollars and doesn't pay it back to you. And you have to pay yourself back. You have to pay your money back to yourself. And that's a very tough thing. It's a terrible thing. It's a hard thing. So when you do forgive, you are letting go of that debt that somebody owes you. And the freedom of knowing that you are not owed, it's such an amazing feeling, you know. And the thing is, because God has done it for us through the Lord Jesus Christ, we can also do it, especially from the Christian point of view. When we come to God and we ask Him to forgive us, He doesn't put us in a conference room and say, what about this one? What about that one? No. He actually just forgives us. 1 John chapter 1, verse 8 says, if we say we have no sin, we lie, and the truth is not in us. Then verse 9 says, but if we confess our sins, He's faithful and just to forgive us all of unrighteousness. So forgiveness is very key, very important in setting us free, in us living a new life. Plus, if you read in Matthew chapter 18, it talks about the parable of the unforgiving servant. And it talks about how a servant owed his master a lot of money. And the master demanded that money be paid back. And the servant couldn't. He didn't have the money. He begged him. He was supposed to be thrown in jail, but ultimately the master forgave him. And then he was also owed by another servant. Not as much as he owed the other, the master. And he demanded that he be paid back until that servant was thrown in jail. And then the master heard what the other servant had done. And so he called him and said, how can you do this? And of course, he had no answer. And then he was taken, the Bible says, and thrown in jail where he would be tortured day and night until he could pay back all the money. So when we have unforgiveness, we are tortured by things like sleepless nights, headaches, sicknesses, high blood pressure. Some sicknesses actually are caused by the bitterness in us. It's a poison that just goes through all of your system, because as a human being, it's not just the body. You are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body. And so these things affect each other. So forgiveness is that bridge to the other side. And without it, really, we will struggle in many things in our lives.
Yes. Lebu, how would you encourage, viewers who have gone through what you went through as a child?
I would encourage them to go through the same process I went through. I think for me, going through LTS, like my co-guest said earlier, it actually went a long way in helping me realize that I have no right to hold a grudge against anyone. Considering, just making reference to what Murti just said, I was supposed to forgive people because I had been forgiven a greater debt by God. So I'd encourage them to let go. And the most important thing is to seek help, because I've come to appreciate, as a trained psychotherapist, I used to counsel children who had gone through all sorts of abuse, especially orphaned and vulnerable children. And I had thought that through that training, I had managed to deal with my issues. But then I realized that I had not totally dealt with them because of the aspect of forgiveness, which was lacking. I used to apply the cognitive behavioral therapy and the psychodynamic, all sorts of theories, but then in all honesty, they don't work. The most important thing is to seek help from God. There's a spiritual dimension that comes with just letting go of the pain and then letting go of the anger and everything. You set yourself free, and by doing that, you just open channels that connect you with people that you never thought would be able to relate with at any point.
Yes. Yeah. And Tamuchi, for you, how would you encourage someone who's gone through what you went through?
I would encourage them to seek counseling. I would wish for them to at least attend LTS, so I don't know whether they have it in their areas or not.
They're on YouTube.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, but I think forgiveness is the only medicine. Yes, because it will set you free, indeed.
Yes. They've been talking a lot about LTS, Muruti. What is LTS?
It's a life training school. When I went to Bible school in Pretoria at Hatfield Christian Church, I was introduced to this program that is a character building program. It's a program about real life issues and changing your life. It's a character, and so it is there where we are taught about bitterness, the impact of it, and unforgiveness, the rejection. So it really worked for me. It changed my life, and so when I came back to Botswana, I used that as a basis of my counseling. And so LTS, we have lessons every Wednesday at church, where we teach in depth about some of the things that we talk about here. Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you, Pastor Muluki, for being with us. You have been watching the Amaruri TV show where we talked about step-parent abuse. We have learned a lot. We have learned that we should protect our children, that as their guardians, we should protect them. We should watch that they're not dealt with carelessly. And we have learned so much about forgiveness. And I believe that a lot of us can be set free from today's program. Join us again next time, same place, where on the Amaruri TV show, where we talk about truth and heart issues.
Aribure